Hello and welcome back to Matt Hayes' Tottenham Blog and to the second episode of our international break transfer talk special. Today we're talking about defenders, which ones we think should be let go by Jose Mourinho and potential targets that Spurs could go for in the summer transfer window. It's been an up and down year for our defence, and tonight we're going to give all the solutions that Levy and Mourinho will need. I'm delighted to say I'm joined by a fantastic panel of David, Luke and Brendan. But before we get into introducing them, if you are new around here and you don't know what this channel is, make sure to hit that subscribe button for live watch-alongs, the Tottenham Fan Voice podcast, match previews, reviews, and any type of Spurs content you could want, including more of these Transfer Talk streams coming up on Sunday, where we'll be talking about midfielders, and next Tuesday, where we'll be doing the big one, talking about attackers. A lot to talk about there with Carlos Vinicius and Gareth Bale. But before we get into complaining about Tottenham's defence, David, the Irish Hotspurs, join us as always tonight. David, how are you getting on?
I'm all good, lad. Look, this is going to be a long show. It's going to be, I think, a very negative show. But look, it has to be done. I enjoyed the keeper show. So let's hopefully we can all live up to that today for you, mate. Let's go.
Fingers crossed. Thanks a million, David. We've also got Luke here from Rivalry Side TV. Luke, welcome back to the channel. How are you getting on?
Yeah, good, mate. Thank you very much for having me on. It's a pleasure to be on as always. Yes, life's good, isn't it? It's Friday. What more can we want?
Some club football would be nice, but yeah, it's good to have you on as always, Luke. We got Brendan as well from the Cheese Room podcast. Brendan, how are you today?
I'm good, Matt. Thanks for having me. Hi, guys. Hello from Brazil. It's a very hot day here, so I've just stuck on the aircon to try and not be so shiny and sweaty for you. But looking forward to getting into some transfer chat.
Absolutely love it. Thanks, William, for joining, Brendan. We've got Wayne here with the £2 super chat. Says, has anyone else ordered the Matt Hayes mug? Well, Wayne, you're officially the first person to order any merch from my channel, so thank you very, very much for that, and thank you very much for the super chat as well. If anyone else, if you do want to order the Matt Hayes Tottenham Blog mug, there's a link down in the description below that will bring you to the website, and you can get that there. I highly recommend it. It's a good way to support the channel, and of course, it's a nice bit of merch as well. So thank you very much for that, Wayne. We've also got Cody Mack, Mr. K, and Dan in the live chat. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And look, let's dive straight into things. We're going to start with the main thing, the title of this video, and it is that according to a few reports in Spain, Real Madrid are not wishing to trigger the buyback clause in Sergio Reguilon's contract this summer. Of course, we all know that infamous one in there that they can bring him back either next summer or the summer after. It's a big concern for Spurs fans, but with the former Fairlad Mendy and Marcelo, of course, there as well, it looks like Real Madrid will be keeping him at Spurs for at least another year. Look, let's get a bit of an opinion on that, David. He's been a very important player for us. I think we noticed when he was out injured a couple of months ago, even though Harry Kane was out injured at the same time, I do think we massively miss Reguilon. Are you relieved that Real Madrid probably won't be getting him back this summer?
Yeah, 100%. Look, it saves us having to do business in that area again. It's an area, like, you know, for me, that we've already tried to address. So let's move on to address centre-back and the right-back issue now. It saves us having to spend money in that area. Look, Reguilon's been a very important player. Results tell that. Like, we've won more with him in you know, when he's played. Him being out injured for that period of time, there's no surprise the form dip when Ben Davies stepped up. He's just, look, you know, I admire Ben Davies for continuously trying, but he's just not good enough. It's the simple fact of the matter. And with Reguilon, you know, he's also an attacking threat down that left-hand side. He can put in beautiful balls into the cross. He gets into the box when the ball is out on the right-hand side and tries to get on the end of things. So he's a very important player for Tottenham. With Sessegnon coming back, you know, he can deputise and he can also play left wing, which is good. And it means we can sell free Ben Davies up to sell him and get him out the door, and then that frees up money to kickstart our transfer window.
Absolutely. Look, you mentioned two players there, Sessegnon and Davies, that we'll definitely dive into very, very shortly. But I agree, the quality that Sergio Reguilon brings down that left-hand side is unrivaled by the other options we have down there. Luke, do you think this is only kind of delaying the inevitable with Sergio Reguilon going back to Real Madrid potentially in 2022? Or do you think we may have a permanent player in our hands here?
Yeah, it's dependable, isn't it? Like, if I was the hierarchy at Spurs, I would be saying to him, you know, play well, but don't play out of your socks, you know, to stay here, because, you know, he has been a great player for us, but defensively, he hasn't always been 100%, you know, whereas Ben Davies plays a lot better as a kind of defensive-minded player, doesn't do anything really attacking. So it's great news with Reguilon, you know, keep him as long as we possibly can. Hope that, you know, in next summer he's still not hit the heights at Real Madrid. Hoped he would, and then you know, kick on from there, because he could be a Spurs player for a long time because he's a young guy and seems to be enjoying his football. So yeah, more than happy with that. Yeah,
fully agree with you there. And Wayne here with another £2 super chat. Wayne, thank you very, very much. Must be payday for you again. Says if Reguilon wants to stay, then we've struck gold. And Brendan, it's hard to disagree with that, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's been a season of very few highs, and he's certainly been one of them. His performances have been superb, and what a signing. I'm not a huge fan of our recruitment team. It seems to just be Steve Hitchin. I was going to say something else there. Steve Hitchin. But yeah, we come up trumps there with Reguilon. Like, he's been superb. And we had Jamie Weir from Sky Sports News on the pod fairly recently, and he said that Sergio Reguilon is very happy at Spurs. He's the one that will decide. It's not Real Madrid. He won't go back to Real Madrid unless he wants to, but he's very happy in London. He's very happy with the team. Obviously, it's a strange time for everyone right now with COVID and fans not being there, but as long as he's happy, we'll keep him, and it was a great signing.
It absolutely was. And you made the point there that at the end of the day, the decision is Sergio Reguilon's. And I think that was a big concern that fans had towards the end of the last transfer window when the news broke that there was a buyback clause in that contract. But I think Fabrizio Romano also confirmed that there is a clause in there that it is down to Sergio Reguilon. It's not an agreement he's signed now that if Real Madrid want him back, he has to go. When Real Madrid, if they do want to bring him back, the decision is purely his. We've got Wayne here with another £2. Says, how did you know it was payday? Just a feeling, Wayne. That's all. Just a little inkling. Thank you very much again for that super chat. But look, we mentioned him a bit already. Might as well dive a bit more into the footballing abilities of Ben Davies. Luke, we'll come to you first because you said there, Davies defensively, you think did you say he was better than Reguilon?
I didn't say he was better than Reguilon. I just think that he is more defensive minded than Reguilon. Mm-hmm. The thing about Reguilon is I love him as a footballer. I love him at Spurs. Don't get this twisted that I don't like Reguilon. All I know is that he sometimes sprints too much into challenges, misses the ball, gets played too far up the pitch. There's a counter-attack possibility, coming on that side from him pushing quite high up the pitch. He plays a lot more attacking than Ben Davies does. So that's all I kind of meant from Ben Davies being a defensive-minded player. He's not the ability of Reguilon. Let's not get those words twisted. But he just likes to defend, and that's all he really does. And does that not great, does he? Let's be honest. Yeah,
that's fair. Holly here says Ben Davies the plank. I think for me the game that stands out the most for Ben Davies in terms of anyone who may try and defend his position in the team is that game against Liverpool at Anfield. And David, this is one that we did the build-up show together for it, and we saw Ben Davies starting on that left-hand side up against Mohamed Salah, and the immediate thought was, well, he's going to score a goal. Now, he did score a goal in that game, but he got that goal from coming in rather central. So do you think there is an argument that Ben Davies, in that defensive low block that we do like to utilise sometimes, is he maybe a better player to have than Reguilon? Because as Luke pointed out, Reguilon does like to dive into challenges. Remember his debut against Chelsea in the League Cup. They got a goal from him overcommitting him to a challenge down the right-hand side. So do you think there is an argument that perhaps Ben Davies is an asset for a team?
No argument whatsoever. Look, at the end of the day, the guy, he is defensive minded, but he can't defend. How many times have you seen time and time again this season? He just gets targeted. The ball goes down his side. He's always 15 yards tucked inside. He's a mile away from the ball, and they either skin him or just whip the ball in every single time. And my eyes don't lie to me, Matty. He's just not good enough. He is not good enough. He can't pass the ball. He can't get up the field. When he does, he can't cross the ball. And then defensively, he just gets spun every time. I think he's a big fan of that Madonna tune, "You Spin Me Right Round, Baby." You know what I mean? Because it just happens every single time. And no, I'm sick of Ben Davies. Look, 8 years at this club, it's not been good enough. And big up Wayne. I just want to say, Wayne's one of these people. He takes out his wallet in the supermarket and it's stacked with 50s, I'd say.
I certainly think so. Wayne, here's another £5. Says we need the rest of the defence to be at the same level as Reguilon. And again, Wayne, absolute legend. Thank you so much for that. But Brendan, I think that is essentially where we're at. We need our players to be at the level of Reguilon. And David pointed out there that the teams often target Ben Davies. And I remember that game against West Brom a couple of weeks back where they put Robert Snodgrass out on the right hand side so he could cut back in on his left and whip dangerous balls into the box. And Diagne had 2 goals disallowed that day from balls from that side. Do you think if a team is coming up against Spurs when Ben Davies is playing, that they see that as a weakness and an area for them to try and exploit?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I'm not a huge fan either. I agree with David. The quality is not there. He's been here, 7 years now? It's been a while.
8 years, I think.
8 years. So that's Lamella territory. And he's not progressed. He's not kicked on. He's just been a sort of 6 out of 10 most games. And at this level, we are going to be pushing for top honours. We need better than that. So I think he is targeted. I think that he plays for Wales in a back three, like as the left-sided of a back three as opposed to a left back. He doesn't get forward as much as Reguilon. Reguilon has 3 or 4 assists this season only, and in the last 3 seasons, I think it's only 1 that Ben Davies has got. So that shows, and you want that from your fullbacks. You want them to go forward. That's the game these days. If you look at the teams that City and Liverpool produce, their fullbacks bomb forward. They provide that extra. We had that with Pochettino, with Rose and Walker. So I think that Davies for me, I'd like to see an upgrade, and Reguilon certainly provides that. I agree he's a bit rough, he's a bit raw defensively. I think at the beginning of the season he was sort of trying to make up for his attacking prowess and sort of saw the space he left at the back and a lot of it, but he's got the pace to catch up, he's got the pace to make up for that. So I think I'd be happy to see Ben Davies move on. Thanks for all your time, but it's time to move on.
Yeah, I think that is the general consensus in the Spurs fan base. Just to touch on a few of those points that you all made. In terms of Davies going forward, I think the main difference I've noticed between Davies and Reguilon is that Reguilon can sense when there's a chance for him to get forward, and if the ball is out the right hand side, it's been shifted across, he'll be in that position to get the ball and start an attack from there, whereas Ben Davies almost needs the pass to be on its way before he feels comfortable going forward. And look, there are different types of players, there are different type of fullbacks. I'm not saying that's a bad trait for Davies to have, but in the team that we are, it just doesn't quite suit us exactly, and he's a lot more cautious, he's a lot more kind of pragmatic, and essentially that's not what we need at the club right now. And Reguilon is just a much better player all round, and also in terms of how he's suited towards our team. And with Davies sitting in that third centre-back role, I think, was it against the Wolves potentially? We played a 3 at the back and he was there as the left centre-back, and he had a decent game. But then, even when he does play well, he lost Roman Saiss at his corner, and Wolves were able to head in a last-minute winner. And Luke, individual errors have been a huge issue in our team this season. But with Ben Davies, it seems to be kind of him and Eric Dier, I'd say, are the ones that do kind of commit that a bit more often. And would you say in the stage where we're kind of teetering on the edge of potentially getting back into any sort of like European elite and also maybe free falling, do you think Davies is the type of player we need to kind of ship out?
Yeah, 100%. Do I think that we will ship him out this summer? I would say no, just because I know how Jose Mourinho feels about Ben Davies and his attitude and how, what he gives outside of the football pitch. So from, you could see it from the Instagram post the other day that Spurs made, where Ben Davies was injured and then Jose Mourinho commented on Spurs' Instagram post. I can't remember exactly what he said, but it just shows you that how much he rates Ben Davies as a person. Now, again, I'm not sticking up for Ben Davies, trying to be, devil's advocate here and try and give an argument from both sides. But yes, I think we should get rid of him. Do I think we'll get rid of him? If it's anything to do with Jose, then probably not.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think that was a bit of a concern when he put that comment on the Spurs post. I think he basically alluded to the fact that Ben Davies had been injured when he came on in our game against Aston Villa, and he said this is what happens when something like I think he used the phrase like a real man or something like that. Some people took it as a dig towards Gareth Bale and his comments that he'd made the previous day, but I think that was just Spurs fan trying to play detective and adding 2 and 2 to get 6 million. So I wouldn't read too much into that one. But Wayne Bonner here says, which defenders would you get rid of? Look, we're going to touch on all of that as we do get through the show. But I suppose if I had to, we need to go around. We pick 3 players off the top, for 3 defenders.
We pick 3.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? If I had to pick 3 right now, I'd say Davies, Dier, and Doherty. It's a bit of alliteration there. David, if you 3 defenders, just the names, who would you get rid of?
Davies, Aurier, and Dier.
Brendan?
I'll go with you, Matt. Davies, Doherty, Dier, the alliteration one.
Luke?
Yeah, it's the 3Ds from me as well.
Love it. At least we're agreeing on something. You don't always get that on Spurs panel shows. But hope that answers your question, Wayne. Thank you again for the super chat. Anyone else, if you do want to guarantee that your comments are read out and your questions are answered, please do get those super chats in. It's a good way to support the channel and also make sure that we will see your comment and have a quick discussion on it. And our next discussion is about I suppose the third left back at the club that some people may have forgotten about, and it is Ryan Sessegnon, who's currently out on loan with Hoffenheim in the Bundesliga, having a relatively decent season individually there, but in terms of the team as a whole, they're perhaps underperforming a bit there. But David, I know this is something we've spoken about a lot this season, but do you think Ryan Sessegnon has a genuine future at Spurs?
I'd like to think so. Look, I think it was a shrewd move to loan him out. I think it's more a case of Mourinho saying, get experience, come back next season. And this is why I believe Mourinho will be here. I believe he was given, the choice to loan out Sessegnon. I believe he will be able to clear out the squad in the summer. And, a fourth-year squad, and he probably didn't want the loser mentality rubbing off on players like Sessegnon and all who he's looking at going forward. look, just touching on Ben Davies. Look, Mourinho's not going to come out and just say Ben Davies is shit because he's never going to be able to sell him, is he? You know what I mean? So there has to be that element to it. He has to try and think long term. Look, I think Ben Davies is shoo-in to be sold. Sessegnon, look, so he's playing left wing back at Hoffenheim. So there's no guarantee he's going to come in and play well at left back. Mm-hmm. But look, we do need an extra option down that left hand side, and it's brilliant that we can also give him time to settle at left back, but also give him time. He can come in for Son on the left wing when he's injured, like he can when he played left wing against Bayern, he scored. You know what I mean? But not only that, we also have Dennis Sarkin there. He's been very unlucky of late. Look, he's had a personal death in the family. He's had a massive injury as well. But when Jose Mourinho first came in, he was the first one pulled out of that team and put on the bench. And Jose Mourinho said he has a big future. So I wouldn't rule out Dennis Sarkin fighting for that place either.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a very good point. And maybe youth players is something we can take a look on in later shows or something. But Luke, David touched on it there. Sessegnon plays left wing back at Hoffenheim, and of course we play more often than not a 4 at the back at Spurs. When that loan deal was completed, there was reports. I think Alistair Gold stated it as well that Spurs had actually approached Hoffenheim about the deal because they wanted Sessegnon to be playing in a system that Mourinho thought could have been the future at Spurs. Do you think things have changed with how Jose wants to set out this team, which makes it perhaps a little more difficult to implement a player like Ryan Sessegnon into our squad?
Yeah, quite potentially. We've tinkered with at least 3 or 4 different formations this season, where at one point we did play with wing backs. We tried to play with 3 centre backs, Ben Davies being one of them at times. But in terms of Reguilon having a future at Spurs, I think 100%. I think one of the kind of issues that he had was when he first joined Spurs, he was injured. Then under Mauricio Pochettino, he used to make people work to gain their place in the squad. You always saw signings take 3, 4, maybe 5 weeks to enter the squad because they had to build up, they had to learn his way of playing, everything like that. And I think that was a little bit detrimental to Sessegnon because he never then ended up really breaking into the Spurs squad. And then obviously Pochettino goes. But look, it's great to have 2 options in all positions, right? We were raving at the start of the season how we pretty much had that in every position on the pitch. So what we've got with Sessegnon is we've got a left-back replacement for Reguilon when he's out, but we've also got a potential left-wing replacement for when Son's out or injured or not performing. So there are options where he could play in both positions. And, you can change formations. So I definitely don't think because we don't play with wing-backs at the moment, it means that he doesn't have a future. I just think that it all depends on whether the manager rates him, I suppose.
Yeah, it'll always come down to Jose Mourinho's verdict in a lot of this because he's not one for compromise. We've Wayne here with another £2. Says, "Who's your choice of keeper to bring?" Wayne, thank you again for the super chat. Personally, my ideal goalkeeper would be Mike Maignan from Lille. Of course, we did a video on that the other day. If you haven't yet seen that, but I think more realistic, I would have to go with Nick Pope. We've got Sean Willis here coming in with a $7 super chat as well. Sean, thank you very, very much for that. It is massively appreciated as always. Brendan, Ryan Sessegnon, as Luke touched on, has that versatility, can play in more advanced areas as well, but look, still has the ability to play in left back as he did with Fulham in the Premier League as well. Do you think he's at the level to be in with a shout with our first team, or do you think maybe there's a bit more development there that needs to happen?
I suspect he'll probably go out on loan again next season, but this time to a Premier League team. It's good that he's getting that game time, but I think the step up we've seen with him and other players, the step up from the Championship to the Premier League is a big one. He tore up the Championship, as did Ben Rama when he went from Brighton to West Ham. It's a big step up. And so even when he was in the Premier League with Fulham, he didn't really pull up many trees. So I suspect he'll probably go out on loan again. I might be wrong. Again, though, like David was saying, he's been playing left wing back. We don't normally play 3 at the back. So I wouldn't put him in that left back position because he's not that defensively sound. Unless we put him with Davies, who are in a back 3. So yeah, it's a tough one. But I suspect that he'll probably go out on loan again. He's still really young, and who knows? Maybe once he does cut his teeth in the Premier League, he'll come back and be ready for sort of decide where he fits. Will he be that more advanced player, or will he decide to be a left back, as orthodox left back?
Yeah, and I think his age is a very important factor to bring into this. I'm not entirely sure. I think he's only about 19 or 20 because people often forget he was 17 when he first broke through in that Fulham team back down in the Championship. So he's only 20 years of age. So he does have a lot more development to do. He's still a lot more raw than some people might suspect, because you think of him as a player who's been around for 3 or 4 years at this rate. And like he has shown glimpses of really being an important player for us. Getting that goal last season in the Champions League against Bayern Munich is, of course, a massive moment for any player, especially out there in the Allianz Arena. So the quality is there, I do feel. And when he's with Fulham, his first season in the Premier League, it was very difficult for him to gain any sort of traction in terms of getting goals and assists, because he was in a team that were relegated essentially 2-3 months before the season even ended. So I think there is still a lot of work for him there to do, but I feel as though he can do it. And with that versatility, there's a bit more of an option there for him to try and find some sort of a way into that team. But look, only time will tell, as is the case with them.
Just to add to that, Matty, it's very similar to Danny Rose. Danny Rose came in as a left midfielder. He was converted to a left back over time. He got loads of loan moves before he was eventually entrusted to come in and start getting game time at Tottenham. He went out, he learned his trade, he came back, and he was magnificent for us. So, it could be another situation like that. We'll wait and see. It'd be very interesting. Yeah,
I agree with you there. Dark Sungees here says, normally when does the summer transfer window start? It's usually the 1st of July up until it changes around between the kind of mid-August or September as well. But 1st of July, it usually does start. Moving on to the other side of the pitch and over to right back. And just anyone who is watching, we will be going through players that we think Spurs should be signing after we discuss all of the deadwood, I suppose, at the back of their club right now. But David, we start with Matt Doherty, who rather bizarrely played in right wing for Ireland a couple of nights ago. In terms of a right back, in terms of his time at Spurs, where do you think this is heading?
He's finished. It's already over. I'm sorry, it's already over for me. Look, just because he's Irish, it's not an excuse to keep him. I really did want him to keep carrying that Irish flag at Tottenham, but he's just not the man. Look, it was never going to get off to a good start when the kid was always an Arsenal fan anyway. You know what I mean? He just doesn't have the love or the passion to play for Tottenham the way we want him to play for the badge. But Matt, he's very bad. He's very static. Like, even though, like, I watched him for Ireland tonight, but it's very similar to what he's replicated at Tottenham. Look, it was kind of like a right wing going forward, but like a right back when we were defending. But going forward, he just does the same thing he's done at Tottenham. The ball goes out to him, and what does he do? He takes 2 touches to get under control and passes it back in where it came from and puts everyone back in under trouble. And then teams just take the ball off us. He's not comfortable on the ball. He's lost all confidence. Look, the guy, he can't defend either. He's absolutely shocking. Against Arsenal, he got caught out the same thing every time. Okay, albeit he could have had a bit of help from Gareth Bale dropping back, but he rushed out and Arsenal just played the ball inside and in behind him every time. The guy is absolutely clueless. I don't know what's wrong with him. He's one of the worst signings I've ever seen come to the club, and I'm making it very clear now. I want him gone in the summer. I don't care, even if we've only had him for a year. I don't care. I want him out. I want him gone. I'm sick of him.
Look, David, you're never one to mince your words, are you? Look, to be honest, I agree with you on a lot of that. And again, as an Irish fan, I really, really hope this one will work out. And back in the summer, we brought him in for £15 million, but selling Kyle Walker-Peters for 12. It was essentially getting Doherty in for $3 million. And given the form he showed in the Premier League last year, I think a lot of Spurs fans were overjoyed with that bit of business. But Luke, what I want to touch on is the fact that with Wolves, Doherty typically played in a right wing back in a 5, and at Spurs he's playing as right back in a 4. Now, I had a JJ Season on this podcast a couple of weeks ago, and he made a very valid point that Wolves this season have, for the most part, switched to a 4 at the back. Do you think it's possible that Wolves let him go knowing they were changing and that he wouldn't suit that style, and Spurs have essentially bought a player who just does not fit in?
Oh, potentially, but I don't think that's probably that true, to be honest. They probably changed their formation because they sold him. They didn't change it knowing that they were, in that sense. I think that Spurs bought a player who was outstanding for Wolves in that position, in that team. Sometimes it just doesn't work with a different group of players. Sometimes you just don't get that same vibe. You just don't gel as well. Sometimes it just doesn't work. And when your confidence goes, it goes. And playing under Mourinho, if your confidence goes and, you're not showing that effort, and fighting for the game, then he's not going to mince his words either. He's not going to sit there and say, "Oh, it'll be all right," like Pochettino probably would have done. Put his arm around his shoulder, took him to the training ground the next day or whatever. Like, if he doesn't perform, and in that Arsenal game is just the epitome of how bad he was. He was just getting done time and time and time again. And you could see it. How, as a player, you couldn't change your game to be able to try and every time he was pushing towards Tierney and then Tierney was playing the ball to Emile Smith-Rowe. It was just ridiculous, and it got silly after a while. And if you can't learn in, let alone the first half of the game, then there's no hope for you, is there? What can I say? I agree with David. He's completely done, and I'm sick of him.
And just to touch on that, sorry, quickly. Do you ever see when the camera goes to him and it's the stupid faces he's pulling, like he's in battle or he's in war or something, and then he just gets spun every single time? It's really annoying. It really is annoying. He's not good enough for Tottenham. It's the stupid faces that get me every time as well. You always look. It's the face like, oh, look at me, I'm playing for the badge. And then, the next thing he just gets done again. He's so infuriating.
But it's the same way he gets done. It gets done the same way every time.
Yeah. It doesn't have like,
if you get robbed because you don't lock your house up, the next time you don't just leave your house open again.
Pretty simple like that. But look, I agree with that Arsenal game. I think the very fact that we played him was a mistake from minute one. You're looking at Arsenal, who are typically a lot stronger down their left hand side, and they do feed a lot of the ball down there with Kieran Tierney, Bukayo Saka, and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang as well, who we were expecting to play in that game. I think him being there was a very poor mistake from Jose Mourinho. But Brendan, do you think Matt Doherty is just simply out of his depth at a team like Spurs?
Yeah, it's not great. Like when we signed him, it did look like a bit of a coup, didn't it? We were like, "Whoa, we've got a player from Wolves. They've just had an amazing season. He stacked up the assists and some of the even goals for Wolves last season." But yeah, it's just not worked for him. And I'm with David a bit on the Guna thing. Like, it's never good when you sign a player who loves your rival, and he literally said he loves Arsenal. But then Serge Aurier is there with an Arsenal shirt on as well a few years ago. So that side is never good. So yeah, it's weird. You kind of the regression just is shocking, and he does seem out of his depth. And to maybe excuse a bit of it, he did play a lot of games for Wolves that season. They went far in Europe. They're like us this season. They started early in Europe last season. He played pretty much every game, didn't have a pre-season. So he's knackered. I think that the silly faces he's pulled is probably because he is a bit knackered and mentally and physically exhausted. But yeah, he's just not good enough. And apparently Wolves want him back. We'll take a bit of a hit, take him back.
Yeah, and I agree with him on that point with him being exhausted, because I wrote an article towards the end of last season, basically on some of the players that were influenced, say, after lockdown, the kind of form dip. There's a lot of Sheffield United players, a lot of Wolves players in there, and Matt Doherty was one who there was just a massive turn there between the kind of break over lockdown and the restart, and the rest probably didn't go, but as soon as he got back into playing, his first couple of games back were good, and then maybe fatigue started setting in again, and the stats were just all downhill from there, which is of course never a good thing. We've got a super chat here from Wayne Bonner again with another £2. Says, what are your thoughts on Lavernier? Personally, I actually don't know too much about him. I know he's in the squad for a few of those Europa League games. Anyone care to chime in?
Nope.
He's Portuguese. We signed him on a free transfer from Chelsea in the summer. And look, his name looks like lavender. So, if he plays as good as his name looks, hopefully we have a player on our hands. Boy, do we need one.
We absolutely do. Cody Mack here asking the important question: is Matt Hayes Ireland's #1 Spurs fan now? For those who don't know, I won the quiz on the We Are Tottenham TV watch along last night, and David ended up walking away with his tail between his legs. So I think that title is at least up for discussion at the moment. I think it's at least up for discussion. Jordan Stevens here says Matt Donkey, and at first I thought he was talking about me, but he was talking about Matt Doherty. So he's saying he'll pack his bags for him as well. And up the other right back currently at our club is of course Serge Aurier. Look, Brendan, we'll come to you first on this. We'll go around the way this stage. What are your thoughts on Serge Aurier, and is he the option for Spurs going into next season?
It's another one. You kind of at the start of the season, he's kicked off quite well. He looked like one of those players that had improved under Jose. We haven't had many. I think Ndombele is probably the standout one there. But yeah, again, it's just sort of fallen back into those mistakes. He's certainly better going forward than Doherty, but he's still got those mistakes in him. So if we're getting rid of Doherty, I wouldn't get rid of Serge. So there's a player in there. He's got the attributes. He's got the technical ability. He's got the physical ability. He's got the pace. It's just his brain disappears sometimes, and it costs us sometimes. So I'd keep him. I do quite like him. I do like his antics as well. The Arsenal shirt, we'll forget about that for now. So yeah, for me, keep, but still get rid of Doherty and sign another right back.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I'm in a fairly similar boat there to you. And look, you spoke about the fact that there is a player in there, and early on in the season, his form was absolutely sensational. He was a player that, for me, I thought had been the one that Jose Mourinho turned around the most. Now, I put Moussa Sissoko and Eric Dier in a similar bracket, and things have really, really shifted in the last 3 or 4 months for the two of them as well. But Luke, there are 2 moments this season that people have kind of looked at Aurier and said maybe the same old players in there. The penalty he gave away against Leicester at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, ridiculous brain dead foul. He was out of the team for a month. He came back in and played against Liverpool and stormed out of the stadium at half time. So do you think maybe that kind of month was a turning point for him, or do you think perhaps he just overperformed for a couple of months?
Look, I think it's definitely the latter. I'm not Serge Aurier's fan whatsoever, to be very honest. You know, he had a terrible reputation when he was in France, and you know, clearly that kind of stuff happens. You know, hence storming out of the stadium at half time. He gives away penalties more than anyone I've seen. You know, if we're looking, let's say we're facing the likes of a Liverpool and Mane on the left, every time Mane gets the ball, you think he's going to foul him inside the box, isn't he? And it happens time and time again. I think offensively he can be good, but for me, he doesn't put enough crosses in. It's always stop, turn, play the ball backwards. I'm not a Serge Aurier fan whatsoever, and I think it would be tricky to get rid of both right backs and then sign another one. It just wouldn't happen. So realistically, I'm going with Brendan on that, you know, saying sell Doherty because he's the worst of the two. But I've heard that apparently Poch might want him at PSG. So again, if they're going to offer anything for him, I'd take it. To be honest, you know, and this sad as this is, you know, the only time for me that he performed out of his skin was the game against Arsenal when the tragedy happened to his brother. And, you know, he performed absolutely outstanding, and that was probably the best game I've seen for Serge Aurier. But yeah, I don't think we'll sell both, but I'm not his fan whatsoever.
Yeah, we've done in here with Super Chat says with the $2 says I'd love Dest at Spurs, plays right back and left back equally well. Of course, Serginho Dest currently at Barcelona. Look down. We'll touch on him a little bit later when we're talking about the potential targets. Now, Jordan Stevens coming in with the £5 as well says, evening guys, I still think Aurier has a place in this team, strength and pace. However, I question his footballing IQ and too rash shift Doherty, in my opinion. David, first of all, to Jordan and Dan, thank you very, very much for their super chats. As always, hugely appreciated. But on that point, David, he does have his qualities and his attributes that can be advantageous to this team. But at the end of the day, he's just too rash. And I mentioned there with Moussa Sissoko, something we spoke about a bit earlier in the season is how the two of them together kind of made an effective player, because you had Aurier doing his job, and then if he messed up, Sissoko was there to cover. So do you think the decline of form in Sissoko is kind of correlated with Aurier, or do you think it is just down to the impetuousness, I suppose, of Aurier?
I think that the decline in Sissoko's form is probably down to Aurier, maybe, in my opinion. I think Sissoko will be the one led astray there. With Aurier, my problem with Aurier is he plays when he wants to play, when he feels like he has a point to prove. And I'm sick of having these players at Tottenham. You come and you want to perform every week, not when it suits you. You know, it's no surprise that Jose's first thing was, you make me nervous. It's perfect. It sums him up. He makes every single one of us nervous around that box. Even when he's on form, he still makes us nervous. For me, again, going forward, you know, there was one game this year, you know, I was sitting there slating him going forward because he's been useless going forward. But then the next game he came out and he put every single cross where you'd want it as a striker. You know, and this is the problem with the guy. It's too inconsistent. Most players have a highlight reel of good tackles. You know, defenders have highlight reels of good tackles. This guy has a highlight reel of absolutely brain-dead, stupid moments. And, you know, I always say football is a 90 minutes game. And players like that, you know, you can't trust for 90 minutes. I want him gone. I think he's been here too long. I've never really rated him. You know, I do think Mourinho has improved him immensely. I don't understand why Poch wants him back at PSG, because he's one of the players that kind of helped cost him his job at the end of the day, because he's just not good enough. You know what I mean? The fact that PSG wanted to get rid of him in the first place, I don't know why we signed him. He just wasn't good enough. And for me, I can't wait to see the back of him, to be honest. Look, respect. After his brother died, coming out and, you know, playing all through that, everything else, much respect. But I'm sorry, the time for sentimental with these players is gone. I want a new era of Tottenham, and he has to go to be able to make that happen. Oh,
have we lost Matt?
Yeah, the opinions that lean towards that as well.
Cool.
Are you back, Matt?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, can now.
Yeah.
He's back.
Every single stream I do, this happens, and I just don't understand it. I do apologise. But look, before we move on to the next player, we go around in a word for Serge Aurier. David, keep or sell?
Sell.
Luke?
Sell.
Brendan?
Keep.
Do you know what? I'd agree with Brendan there as well, just purely because I want Doherty gone as well. And like you said, Luke, it'll be
We're not going to sell both.
Yeah, look, if I'm going on a actual factual base of like who will actually sell, then we'll keep him. But I would.
You'd rather.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. Look, on to a next player. And look, I could ask questions about him, but I think if I just say his name and let you speak, it'll probably be more effective so you can speak your mind. So Brendan, Eric Dier, talk to me.
Oh God, how did he make the England team? That's my big question as well. Like, bless him. Like he at the beginning, he was such a darling for Mourinho. Like he saw him as the sort of John Terry, the English sort of hard nut at the back, but he's not got John Terry's a smidgen of John Terry's tactical awareness and defensive ability. He's cost us so many goals, and the confusion between him and Hugo. It's just beyond a joke. And next to Toby, he has played okay, but that's Toby. Toby is the rock of that defence. We saw that with Sanchez, that he plays well next to Toby. So, yeah, Eric Dier, bless him. Like it's a player that's regressed. We could probably get some money from him for him, but if we sell him to a sort of mid to lower table team, maybe a team like Newcastle could do with him, or West Brom if they stay up. But yeah, it just hasn't worked. He's not there, and I think the final straw was that farce away in Zagreb, which that's got to be the nail in the coffin for his Spurs career, and rightly so. Thank you, Eric, for everything you've done, but we do need to move on.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And look, I would like to go to each and every single player, but we're a bit pushed on time. So what we're going to do is we'll get David and Luke to talk about the other centre-backs. But before we do, on Eric Dier, Brendan, keep or sell?
Sorry?
Eric Dier, would you keep or sell?
Oh, sorry. Sell. Oh, God, sell, yeah.
Luke?
Sell.
David?
Sell.
It's a full house. Sell Eric Dier, get him out as soon as we can. Luke, we'll come to you on Davinson Sanchez, a player who his form has kind of shifted in the last month or two. He's looking to potentially form a good partnership with Toby Alderweireld, but we still know there's still a very bad player in there, I suppose is the most simple way to put that. What are your thoughts on Sanchez?
Yeah, I think there's a very naive player in there still. Mm-hmm. I think he's all right when he's head on with players. As soon as he starts running backwards, his awareness of anything goes out the window and his equilibrium goes off and he just falls over, trips over his legs or however it might be. And, I don't know why. I do have a soft touch for Sanchez for some bizarre reason. I have no idea why. But you just get this with players. But mm-hmm. I can't really defend him, to be honest. Some of his performances have been woeful. My preferred partnership would be Toby and Rodon as centre back partnership. So yeah, he used to be used quite a lot because he's got good pace. But I still feel when the ball goes over his head, that's when you get him falling over or tripping up or something rash, giving away a penalty. Whatever it may be. So, yeah, it's not looking good for him.
It's not. And like that goal against Manchester City was it Ilkay Gundogan, where he I remember doing this on the watch along, and obviously there's people who weren't watching the game, and I said, Gundogan has made one touch of the ball and Sanchez had ended up in his face. And I wanted, he literally ended up on his face. Like, it wasn't a turn of phrase or anything. He landed on his nose. It was a bizarre moment. And as Holly says here, and as you said, his pace does get him out of trouble quite a bit, which I suppose in some way is good. I mean, there's not a lot of very, very quick centre-backs out there, but you'd rather he didn't have to...
it happened against Villa as well, didn't it? He fell over when the ball came over his head again against Villa. Luckily, I think he managed to swing a leg or something. He managed to get it away. But, it reminded me of a very poor man's John Terry. I don't know if you ever remember, but John Terry, salmon diving in one of the World Cup games a while ago. And, Davinson Sanchez rather just face planted the floor instead. So...
Yeah, he's an interesting character. I'd say that's the best way to put it. And when your manager is a man who targeted him in the Europa League final 3 years ago, I think that says quite a bit of what you need to know. But we go around the house again. David, Davinson Sanchez, keep or sell?
I'm going to keep him on the base that we can't sell everybody. So
fair enough. Luke?
I'm going on the basis that I'm, do I want him staying or do I want him gone? I'm going to say sell because he's young and you can get some decent figure for him.
That's fair. That's fair. Brendan?
Oh, he's just swayed me literally that second. I was going to say keep, but he's right. We could get money for him. He is young. He could probably go somewhere like Barcelona and be amazing. So, yeah, sell. We probably won't make the 42 million back, but we get mid-30s and we could reinvest that. Sell.
Yeah, I think we're going to make it a 50-50 here. I'll agree with David and say keep, purely because I think there is something in there. There's a bit of quality in that partnership with Toby, who we'll get David to talk about in a sec. I think could be something advantageous, something that could grow into a decent partnership. And look, if there's more money there, if we hadn't been told we have to sell to buy, maybe then we could let him go and bring in a Skriniar or a Milenkovic, but I just don't think that will be possible this summer. Jordan Stevens here says he's at one with nature. That's why he likes the grass so much. It's a nice way of putting it. David, Toby Alderweireld, what are your thoughts?
Look, for me, I think I've maintained this all season. Come the summer, we have to look for a new centre back. He's a good centre back, but we can't rely on him as much as we need to anymore. It's coming to a point where we need to get a set back four. I do think there's use in keeping him around for another year, especially with the likes of Tanganga and Rodon there to try and help them out. If you can bring in another centre back there as well, to have him around the camp would be absolutely great. But look, to be honest with you, I was probably expecting to see him a bit more than what I have this season. And that just shows the rapid decline and that the Premier League has had on his legs. And, with paces and everything, because you can always have the smarts to get out of it by reading the game and positioning and stuff like that. But I do think we're seeing him more exposed than what we ever have done. And look, I do think his time at Tottenham is coming to an end. And it's not due to any fault of his own. It's just because we have to make rotations in that centre-back position and we have to get a couple in. So, and look, his age is a factor as well. You can't deny that. His age is a massive factor. I think he's going to be, 34 going into next season, if not a small bit older. So, he can't play forever as much as we want him to and as much as a great servant he's been. I think this ultimately could be his last year, maybe 1 year as a big part player.
Yeah, I agree with you there. We've HG of the Cheese Room here tuning in, said only a fool would sell Toby. I think he does have so much to offer, like not in terms of like on the pitch going to the next season or two, because I thought he'd be gone with Jan Vertonghen last summer, and I thought it would have been a fitting way for them to end as players that we'd love to continue with the club, but when you get to a certain age, you can't do it anymore, and that age is different for different players, and it looked for a while as though it may be a little bit younger than usual for the two of them. But Toby, a fantastic servant to the club, an incredible player, but unfortunately coming towards probably the end of the prime for his career. But we'll go around the room, keep or sell. David, on Toby Alderweireld?
I'll keep him.
Luke?
Yeah, I'll definitely keep him, yeah. Brendan?
Keep 100%.
Keep, and we make it a full house for the second time. I'd keep him as well. There's two players that I wanted to touch on, but look, in terms of time, I think I'll just briefly myself just talk about Tanganga and Rodon. Two players that I think have a huge future at Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. They're players who I think a lot of us would say we're surprised that they haven't been given as much faith, or Jose hasn't put as much faith in them as perhaps he should have. They're players who are, of course, young and are inexperienced, and I do feel as though that is kind of swaying Jose's decisions on whether or not to get them into the team. But then looking at that team against Aston Villa, and a lot of what was said around that game from Alistair Gold with the lineup and Jose in terms of him finding players that he thinks want to fight and want to play the games like that, I think we could see potentially a lot of time for Tanganga and Rodon coming into the end of the season. Now with Rodon, I assume it'll be in centre back alongside Toby Alderweireld, but with Jaffa Tanganga, it's looking like it's going to be out in right back. And Jose has said he sees Tanganga as a right back. But look, David, I agree with you when you say you think he could be the next Ledley King. So I think there's a big point coming up in Tanganga's career when we kind of figure out which position he'd be best suited to. And he has attributes for both of them. I think he's fast and he's powerful, which could suit a wide defensive area in terms of getting forward. But also he's physical, he's tall, and he's good in the air, which would suit him as a centre back. So I think there's a lot of time for him to kind of make up his mind and kind of figure himself out in terms of what position suits him best, because I know even at this stage in his career he might not know what the best is. You look at Carlos Vinicius, who at the age of 20 was a centre-back for Palmeiras, and now he's a Premier League striker, so there's a lot of time for him to figure that sort of stuff out. But now we get to come on to the fun part, the part that we enjoy, and potentially players that we could bring in the summer to improve this defence, to bulk up the shambles that has been at the back of our team this season. Brendan, we'll come to you first. Give us a player that you think Spurs should bring in this summer.
For the centre back roles, I'll disclaimer. Like I did go to the other Cheese Room podcasters for this list, but centre back, a player that stood out in the Premier League is Joachim Andersen at Fulham.
Yes.
He's been superb and Premier League proven, and that's the benefit of when sort of lower league teams bring in loan players from overseas, because you never know how they'll adapt to the Premier League. But we've seen with him that he can hack it. So Fulham may go down this season. If they do, we'll probably get him. Oh no, he's going to go back to Lyon. Sorry. So Fulham probably wouldn't be able to sign him permanently. So he's certainly one that I'd go for. Pau Torres as well at Villarreal, probably be a bit more expensive. But in terms of the centre back, I'd love to see us go for Anderson. Sorry, he's been superb this season for Fulham.
Absolutely, and he's a name that I always see kind of popping up in my live chat. We've Paul Russell here as well saying Toby sold Anderson in. When you look at that Fulham side, there's a lot of quality players in there that probably shouldn't be down in a relegation battle. I think nothing about that Fulham team suggests to me that they could go down aside from the points they have on the table, which is a bizarre sentence to say, but they play good football, they have a good manager, and they have good players in there. I think it's something like 35 goals conceded in 29 games this season, which if I say it sounds wrong, but it is a very low number of goals they've scored. Luke, what are your thoughts on Joachim Andersen?
Yeah, I think that's the crucial point that you made, was that Premier League proven. I think we need to tread very carefully in delving into the international markets to save a bit of cash, rather than choosing a player who we already know has played and can play in the Premier League. So I think he would be a great signing, 100%.
Yeah, I agree with that one. He kind of has the best of both worlds, where he is Premier League proven, but we're not signing him from a Premier League team. So potentially there could be that sort of extra value in the market as well. David, Joachim Andersen, like to see him in a different white jersey this season or next season?
Yeah, I think he's brilliant. Look, I've looked at him, I've watched him a few times, and this guy actually loves defending, and we need to bring in defenders that genuinely love defending. Celebrate a tackle like it's scoring a goal, celebrating a block like it's scoring a goal. That's what we need. I think Joachim Andersen would be brilliant. I also think Milenkovic from Fiorentina. I think he'd be a very good option. Another player, he loves defending, loves heading balls. He'd be a great asset to have from set pieces. If potentially you could bring the two of them in and have them as a centre back partnership, that would be unbelievable. So there'd be my two centre backs. And Milinkovic has their release clause as well. I think it's only 22 or 25 million, so it's cheap enough as well.
Yeah, it's a very low number for a player of his quality. And I always bring it back to when we talk about Nikola Milenkovic in terms of whether he'd be suited to Spurs, whether he'd be a good player to fit in our style. When we were targeting Milan Skriniar last summer, the player Inter Milan had identified to replace him in Milan was actually Nikola Milenkovic. So I think to some degree that does tell us the quality of player that we may be getting there. And look, you can look at the European leagues as being weaker than the Premier League, which I think the majority of them are, maybe with the exception of the Bundesliga. But if you're going to a league for a defender, I think the Serie A is probably the best place to go, because we know Italy renowned for their defending. And Milenkovic isn't Italian, but he is playing in an Italian team in an Italian league, which you would imagine has a lot of Italian philosophies. So his fantastic in the air. I think something like 80% aerial duel success rate, which is an absolutely crazy number. And it's the type of thing that we could do in our team at the moment. We could do it in our squad, because how many goals have we conceded from set pieces this season? How many crosses into the box? We played Fulham at Craven Cottage. I think it was Ivan Cavallero rose above Eric Dyer to win a header, which you probably wouldn't see if Milenkovic was in there. He's tall, he's powerful, he's physical. I think he could be a fantastic addition to that centre-back partnership that could involve Rodon, could involve Alderweireld. We'd have to see going into next season. I want to talk about a right back for a second. And David, I know you're a massive fan of this guy, so we'll come to you last on him. But Luke, we'll come to you first. Max Aarons of Norwich. Norwich apparently looking for £35 million for him. Bayern Munich, another team that are also interested. Do you think there's any possibility of a deal there?
I think it's unlikely with the other teams that are, hunting for his signature realistically. But, £35 million, I'd pay that tomorrow for him. I think he's outstanding. He's young. He's hungry. He could be, a Spurs player for a long time. And it kind of fits all worlds. He has played in the Premier League. Obviously, they got relegated. Looks like they're going to come back up. That would be the issue for me, is that would his price rise at all if they did get promoted? Because then there isn't that want from the player as much to leave. They would have said to him, give us one season if we can get back up, etc., etc. But if we've got to compete against Bayern Munich for his signature, is that more attractive place to go and play your football? Potentially.
the only thing I think that could potentially sway that in our favour is you look at the likes of Benjamin Pavard, Sarr, who have there as well. Joshua Kimmich can also play right back. Perhaps Max Aarons could look at that and see a very small possibility of him playing first team football there, which you'd hope is the kind of priority he has. But if there's money put on the table by Bayern, I think we could be in a very different situation there. But Brendan, what are your thoughts on Aarons?
Yeah, again, we spoke about this earlier. Premier League proven. He did have that season last season when Norwich were up in the Premier League, and so yeah, I guess he's a name we've been linked with for a long time as well, and he fits the bill. He's the sort of player that we would sign. I don't know. I like the look of, again, going back to Fulham, Ola Aina, the Fulham guy. He's a Spurs fan as well, so no more Arsenal fans.
Oh my god!
How many Emirates?
But yeah, Aarons, yeah, I'd be very more than happy with him. 35 million that's standard pretty much these days for a player that's played a season and not been a disaster in the Premier League. So yeah, I'd go for Aarons, but I think Aina might be a cheaper option, and he supports Spurs.
That's always a positive thing. Look, David, Max Aarons he's your number one target. He's the right back you want. He's your player. Tell us about him.
Yeah, he's my little baby. I'm going to take him under my wing. Look, being honest, I actually do think we missed a chance to sign him last summer. I do think we've missed our chance. I do think bigger clubs will ultimately come in and taking him. But, although he went down with Norwich, they had a very, very young backline, very inexperienced backline. If he had experienced players beside him, would it have been different? Who knows? But, he's good defensively. He's very good going forward as well, and that's what we need in a modern day fullback. You need fullbacks who can play on the ball. They can drive out with the ball, play 1-2s, get up the field, cross a ball, or cut in, or have a shot. Be confident. So he's perfect for a modern day fullback. If we could snatch him now, we're definitely, he's a player that we can either keep him here for 10 years or you can see him moving on for massive money in the future. Another player I really like is Achraf Hakimi, the young lad who came through at Madrid that time. I know he's out on loan. I think it's at Dortmund, I think. I do think he plays more higher up the pitch for them now. But when he came through at Madrid, he's a very good player, and I do like the looks of him. He'd be another one I'd like to maybe take a punt on.
Yeah, I think with Achraf Hakimi, he actually made his debut for Real Madrid at Wembley against Spurs in the Champions League when he beat them. Was a 3-1. He was at Dortmund last season, but he's at Inter Milan now this season. And something that really impressed me with him last year is he was their top scorer in the group stage of the Champions League. He was absolutely crazy. The wing-back partnership they had there with Achraf Hakimi on the right and Rafael Guerreiro on the left, Dortmund, were absolutely sensational and really, really did have some outstanding times with the two of them bombing forward, and also somewhat decent defensively as well. So he's probably out of our price range and a player that I would love to see at Spurs, but maybe in terms of whether it's realistic, I'd probably look beyond it, but definitely a very, very good shout as well.
Reguilon in the summer, you never know, Matty. That's
true. Daniel Levy can work genius sometimes. Luke, I want to ask you about Yannick Vestergaard, Southampton centre-back, 6'6", unbelievable in the air. He's come in with a couple of goals as well this season. Do you think he could be a good addition for Spurs?
Yeah, potentially. We have a good record of signing, players that people didn't believe would be as decent at Spurs as they had been at Southampton. So why not? Depending on the price. He's a good player. He's tall. He's probably going to be 10 times better than Eric Dier and Sanchez at headed duels. And to be honest, that is a key thing that you made earlier, about headed clearances and conceding goals from set pieces. It's massive for Spurs and somewhere that we always have a problem with. Honestly, watching Spurs every time the ball comes in the box, I'm thinking if it's crossed in, I'm thinking the other team's scoring because our ability to defend from set pieces is bad. So yeah, why not? If the money's right. I'm definitely in this, when I made my notes for this show, it was like we need Premier League proven players rather than taking a punt on somebody else, which we tend to usually do because we don't have the time to let them get settled, especially as a centre-back. So why not?
Yeah, I agree with that one. Anybody else have any players they'd like to suggest?
One. So you go.
It's not somebody that we need to sign, but you mentioned it earlier about Tanganga. I certainly believe with the likes of Aurier and Doherty, the right back position could be his for the taking and could be his long term. I know we talk about him potentially being a centre back, but playing him and Rodon, two young guys at centre back, it would take a long time to form that partnership. he's strong, he's physical, he's fast. So why not? Why I could see that a more likely option as opposed to effectively, having to buy a player in left back, right back, centre defence, or even potentially 2 centre backs. So, it's not really a signing, but as Pochettino would say, it's like a new signing.
It absolutely could be, and he's a player that I think holds a special place in the heart of Spurs fans as well. Just because he's one of our own, and I think we saw in the Amazon documentary just how much Spurs kind of means to him as well. So I would hope there's a future for him in that first team with Spurs. But Brendan, is there a player you wanted to recommend?
Yeah, just another right back, Turkish player, Zeki Çelik, plays for Lille. He looks fairly decent. His stats are solid. His 70% of the starting 11 for Lille he started. So he looks a good option, and market value is around 20 million. So Zeki Çelik is one Turkish player for right back. It looks a good option.
And you know what? The amount of players that people have suggested from Lille in the 2 shows we've done on this already. We had Dakota Booth and the Hotspur team on here on Wednesday, and he's a big fan of Lille. And we were looking at Mike Magnan, the goalkeeper. There's Sven Botman, whose name I see in there. Sky Sports lately reporting we're interested in Jonathan Bamba, and now Zeki Çelik as well. They're a team who do apparently need to sell players for whatever financial situation they're in over there as well. So Zeki Çelik, a very, very good shout, and definitely one that we need to keep an eye on out over the summer, because you look at the French league, and again it comes back to the quality and all that, but there are certain kind of types of players that work from certain types of leagues, and Lille at the moment joint on level top with PSG on 63 points in the French league. They have a fantastic squad put together there that are competing with the best of the best over in France, so there are definitely a few players we could pick from them, and hopefully a right back or a centre back is one of them, because there are some very, very good options there. But look, guys, it's ran on for a little bit longer than I was hoping, so I do apologise to you for that. But look, there's still 150 people here in the live chat. Over 1,000 joined us so far. Thank you very, very much, everyone who has tuned in. Do make sure to hit that like button. We're on 65. Let's see if we can get that up to 75 before we end it. Make sure to smash that subscribe button as well for watch-alongs, the podcast, previews, reviews, and all that. But as always, we'll go around the house and get everyone to plug their socials. So is that with you, Brendan? Let us know where we can find you on Twitter and YouTube.
Sure, yeah. So my Twitter is B McGurty. YouTube is the Cheese Room Spurs. Same with Twitter at Cheese Room Spurs. Same on Instagram, and we have a big Facebook page as well. So get involved. Cheers.
Absolutely do head over to all of those, as Brendan mentioned. I'm hoping to get on the Cheese Room podcast soon in the near future. So you may be hearing my voice over there quite soon. Luke, let us know you and Rivalry Side TV.
Yeah, so you can catch us on Twitter and on YouTube at Rivalry Side TV. We do Spurs content, we do Liverpool content, West Ham, United, Aston Villa. I can't even remember how many we do now. England content now during the international break. So just a group of lads, doing individual shows, and you can hear me waffle on about Spurs anytime you like. But thanks so much, Matt, for having me on.
Absolute pleasure, Luke. Thank you very much for your time. And Rivalry Side TV, definitely a channel that I also highly recommend. And look, you all know David's face at this stage. You know what he's about. You know where to find him, but we're going to give him the opportunity anyway. David, let us know.
Yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet, Matty. It's the Irish Hotspur on YouTube. I'm actually doing my fan calling show at 9:30, so get over, grab a membership, come on and see me. I want to see the faces behind the names. And it's the Irish Way on Twitter. Subscribe to everybody's channel here. We all deserve it. We all put in good time and effort and everything else. So, show everyone the love. Let's go.
Absolutely. Completely echo those sentiments. The links to all of the lads' YouTube channels are down in the description below. So if you do want to go over and check them out, as again, I highly recommend you do. Just hit those links down below and that will bring you right to their channels. To David, to Luke, and to Brendan, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for your fantastic insight and input. It's been an incredible discussion, one that I'm sure all of our viewers have massively enjoyed. And to the viewers, thank you so much for tuning in. As I said, over 1,000 of you throughout this live stream. So thank you very much for your time. And hopefully Spurs will have some big defender signings in the summer transfer window. Thanks for watching, everyone.